You made yourself a promise. Maybe it was yesterday. Maybe it was years ago. Tomorrow I'll start. Tomorrow I'll wake up early. Tomorrow I'll stop procrastinating. Tomorrow I'll finally become the person I know I can be. Then tomorrow arrived, and somehow you became the very first person to break that promise. Here's the strange part. If another person made you that promise, you'd expect them to keep it. But when you make a promise to yourself, it's somehow optional. Why do intelligent people repeatedly betray themselves? Welcome back to Project Becoming. We like to believe that knowledge changes people. It doesn't. Think about it. Most people already know that exercise is healthy. They know sleep matters. They know scrolling for hours leaves them feeling empty. They know saving money is wiser than impulsive spending. Knowledge isn't rare anymore. It's everywhere. So if information were enough, the internet would have solved self-improvement years ago. But it didn't, because the problem was never information. The problem is something far more invisible. Every act of self-betrayal begins with a conversation, not with another person, with yourself. I'll do it later, but just this once. I deserve a break. Listen carefully to those thoughts. They don't sound dangerous. That's what makes them dangerous. Self-betrayal rarely announces itself. It arrives dressed as reason. Every excuse feels logical in the moment. Every delay feels temporary. Until one day, you realize you've spent years postponing the life you wanted. Not because someone stopped you, because you kept convincing yourself to wait. Here's something psychologists have observed about human behavior. People often prefer what is familiar over what is beneficial, even when the familiar is painful. Think about that. You can dislike a habit and still feel uncomfortable letting it go. Why? Because habits don't just shape behavior, they reinforce identity. If you've spent years seeing yourself as someone who never finishes what they start, every broken promise quietly strengthens that story. Not because it's true, because it's repeated. Your brain becomes less interested in asking, is this helping me? And more interested in maintaining a consistent picture of who you believe you are. This is where things become interesting. Intelligence doesn't always protect you from self-sabotage. Sometimes it makes you better at explaining it. A less reflective person might simply skip the workout. A highly intelligent person might build a convincing argument for why skipping today is actually the smarter decision. I need to rest. I'll be more productive tomorrow. I should wait until I have the perfect plan. The story changes. The result doesn't. Your intelligence becomes the lawyer defending the very habits you're trying to escape. Imagine that every promise you keep casts a vote. Not for a politician, for a person. Every morning you get out of bed when you said you would, one vote. Every time you keep studying after you want to quit, another vote. Every time you choose the difficult conversation over silence, another vote. One decision won't transform your identity, but thousands of them will. The person you become isn't created in dramatic moments. They're created in ordinary ones. Again, most people ask, how do I become more disciplined? It sounds like the right question, but maybe it isn't. A better question is this. What kind of person keeps promises to themselves? Notice the difference. The first question searches for a technique. The second searches for an identity. Because discipline isn't just something you do. It's evidence of someone you've become. The goal isn't to force yourself forever. The goal is to become the kind of person who no longer argues with the promise they made yesterday. There are people who have been betrayed by strangers, by friends, by family. But the deepest betrayal often happens in silence. It's the moment you stop believing your own word. The moment your promises begin to sound like suggestions. Because every broken promise leaves behind something invisible. A little less trust, a little less confidence, a little more doubt. Not in the world, in yourself. But here's the good news. trust can be rebuilt the same way it was lost. One kept promise at a time. Not the biggest promise, the next one. Because every time you keep your word, you become someone your future self can believe in. And maybe becoming isn't about transforming overnight. Maybe it's about becoming the one person who never lies to you again.